Myers. And they will face big number 50, Adam Wainwright. His number is brought to you by Marshall Wireless.
Well, Adam, has a 3-0 record and a good ERA, 10th best in the National League, but not satisfied with his year to this point.
Domino's first pitch is fouled back by Jimmy Rollins.
He's walked few, way too many, and he's got that pitch count, but he's been working at it, and you could really see how he takes full responsibility, and you appreciate that.
Jimmy Rollins much better this season from this side of the plate, from the right side, only hitting 125, the switch hitter. He was 1 for 5 last night. Phillies really need to get him going.
Well, he is the catalyst to their offense.
He slaps it the other way, backing up Duncan with room to make the catch. And the first man retired. A look at the defense, minus Rick Ankiel tonight. So Colby Rasmus anchors center. Duncan and Ludwig also out there in left and right. Thurston, Green, Schumacher, and Pujols along the infield. The battery tonight, Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina. It's the Auto Tire Cardinals defense. Tony La Russa shook up last night with what took place with Rick Ankiel. And I think it's fair to say, Al, he would be shook up with any player that's wearing that Cardinal uniform, but there is that special bond that Duncan, La Russa, and Ankiel have had for a number of years.
That's right, going back to the pitching days, and such a highly touted prospect, wins 11 games in his rookie year, breaks the Cardinals all-time rookie mark for strikeouts, broke Dizzy Dean's mark, and then has the problems in postseason, battles back as a position player.
Shane Victorino, 1 ball and rather 2 balls and 1 strike.
But they have a very special relationship, as you said, and Tony now I think is much more relieved with a very good medical report.
And it's official now. He underwent an MRI exam this afternoon that showed a deep contusion, bruising on his right shoulder as Victorino lines it into deep right field, and it's gone just over the wall, and a 1-out homer here in the first. A line drive shot by Victorino, his 4th of the season, and his 17th RBI. That just carried out of here on a line.
Was not expected, was it?
No.
I mean, you just thought he hit it well, but I thought it wasn't even going to get to the warning track as it sneaks over the wall. His 4th home run, the 3rd batting left-handed, the switch hitter, and he gives the Phillies an instant 3-0 lead. They have been home run hitters in this young season. Excuse me, 1-0. How did I get 3?
3rd batter up. Maybe you're thinking that. Raul Ibanez is the hitter. He's moved up to the 3rd spot. Again, no Chase Utley. Utley was trying to get himself into the lineup, and Charlie Manuel decided that with a big series coming up for the Phillies, Mets tomorrow night and the following night, those two have had a nice rivalry now. Recent memory here, last couple of years, it's been those two teams down the stretch. So Charlie Manuel holds him out, even though that Utley wanted to play. They still have a guy named Howard.
Yes, they do. And I had a chance to meet Ryan's 2 older brothers, or I guess one's a twin. And as big as Ryan is, they didn't feed him very much.
The fraternal twin, Corey.
Yeah, his older brother and twin, are huge men. Not overweight at all.
See the HK on the front of the jersey. Remembering Harry Callis, outstanding broadcaster for a number of years in Philadelphia. There's a called strike. And quickly, no balls and 2 strikes. As Ryan Howard hit that grand slam last night. There's the curveball, misses low and away.
Seventh career grand slam already for Ryan Howard.
It ties him for the most in franchise history with Mike Schmidt. You see the at-bats, though, big difference. 2,162 for the Phillies first baseman, over 5,500 for Mike Schmidt to get those 7 grand slams. And he strikes him out. Home run by Victorino. And it's 1-0 after a half inning.
Yes, I'm gonna go next to the press box. I think that'll work if I give it a little distance. Yeah. That would be a while, I think, but I'll check into it.
That's the flying Hawaiian right there. Shane Victorino, and a 1-0 lead with his solo home run. A look at the Cardinals lineup. Schumacher, Thurston, and Albert Pujols here. The first, Thurston, 3 hits last night, couple of doubles. And his average you see there at that 300 mark. Ludwig, Duncan, Molina, Rasmus Green, and Adam Wainwright against Brett Myers. And the first pitch is a strike to Skip Schumacher. Myers, 28 years of age, and the 12th overall pick back in 1999. And his number is brought to you by Marshall Wireless. Quickly, no balls and 2 strikes.
Another Philly starter that has been struggling, and one thing quite noticeable, he's allowed 8 home runs in 30-plus innings, 31 2/3 innings. Very high.
Free agent year for Brett Myers. He is slimmed down, in very good shape as he made his 3rd consecutive opening day start this year.
And Dan, with before the Victorino home run at the top of this inning, the Cardinals starting staff had allowed 8 home runs combined, and Myers has allowed 8 himself.
You have to give Brett Myers a lot of credit. A season ago, his first 17 starts, ERA close to 6. He only had 3 wins. And then he accepted an assignment to Lehigh Valley, the Iron Pigs. There's a line out to third and Pedro Feliz. So he took a minor league assignment to get things straightened out. He came back and was terrific down the stretch for the Phils. Ibanez, Victorino, and Worth in the outfield. Feliz, Rollins, Cairo, and Howard along the infield. Brett Myers and Carlos Ruiz. The battery tonight for the Phillies, and their defense is brought to you by Auto Tire. For Brett Myers, that's a key out because Schumacher is coming into play tonight. 5 for 10 against him with a couple of home runs. Fields the grounder back to him off the bat of Thurston, and it brings in Albert Pujols with 2 outs and nobody on.
Congratulations to Albert as he was named the National League Player of the Month for April. Well-deserved honor.
And Brian Barton, the National League Rookie of the Month, and a finalist for the Pitcher of the Month was Ryan Franklin.
And you and I kind of split the votes between Barton and Thurston, and understand it was a very close. We were hoping that they would tie in that department.
In typical Tony La Russa fashion, he was asked about it, and he said, well, new month. I appreciate their efforts, but it's a new month.
Well, Thurston had 3 hits last night.
That's right. 2 outs and a 1-0 pitch to Pujols. Taken low and outside. 2 balls and no strikes. San Francisco beat the Cubs today. Tim Lincecum picked up the win. He's 3-1. 6-2 is the final at Wrigley Field. Good pitching matchup as Houston and Washington are tied at 10-10 in a delayed game in the 5th. Pujols hits it into right, and it's taken by Jason Worth. When we come back, Jim Hayes will have more on the Rick Ankiel situation and good news to report when we come back to Busch.
To the second, Rick Ankiel back in the Cardinal clubhouse this evening, joking around with his teammates. Far cry from the scene last night where he had that horrific crash into the wall. The medical update on Rick is good. He's got a contusion in his right shoulder, otherwise just soreness. He told me, Dan, when it happened, upon impact, he said, I thought this might be it. I thought I broke my neck. Obviously, the news is great and everyone is relieved. And it sounds like his spirits are pretty high, obviously, with what took place, not knowing what was going to happen after that injury and what we see here before the game tonight. I think he was very much at home joking around with his teammates in the clubhouse because he was scared last night. Jim, did he talk about the experience of what took place in the hospital last night? I know Tony La Russa was there. He talked about really the impact and what happened immediately after. He said he was numb. He remembered, don't move. He knew he took a hard shot to his neck, so he wanted to make sure he immobilized himself so if there was damage, it wouldn't be exacerbated at all. So quick thinking on his part. This is Jason Worth, the right fielder for the Phillies. Jim Hayes is with us, and that's pulled foul. As far as him getting back in the lineup, Jim, was there any talk of that? Well, John Mozeliak said it'll be a few days before Ankiel gets back in the lineup. He is very sore. Again, he had an MRI today because there was more pain in his right shoulder than he felt there should be. It was negative in terms of any kind of damage, just bruising, but it's going to take him a couple days to get back in. Did he talk about any of the particulars of the crash in the wall? Just that when it happened, he really thought that was it for him. He thought it could be more severe, at the very least, some kind of broken neck where he was going to have paralysis. He said he was numb, but he felt relief when he realized he can move his limbs. And then he said logic kicked in. Don't move. Immobilize yourself in case there's some serious damage here. And Worth strikes out. Final question for you, Jim. How about some of his teammates? I know I had a chance to visit with some, but seeing him in the clubhouse, I guess that must have been a relief for many of Rick's teammates here today. You could tell there was relief because they were giving him the business like it was any other day. They were kidding him for lying around in the outfield and holding up the game, Dan. Now that's tough. That is tough.
Clubhouse humor can be very cruel at times.
And Chris Duncan, really was the first on the scene, so to speak.
Right. And
last night.
And Chris had to relay some good information to Tony and the rest of them. And he never lost consciousness, but when he asked him, are you okay? He said, yes, I just don't want to move.
In all your years of baseball, in particular with the play involving a crash and a collision in a wall like that. Can you think of anything that was worse than what we saw last night?
Not that I can recall. It's pretty gruesome. And of course, the way they attend to an injured player today. I think the first time we were down in Atlanta and Brian Jordan injured his neck, and it really wasn't a serious injury at all. But it was the first time we ever saw him bring out the backboard, stabilize the neck, and actually put a neck brace on them just as a precaution.
There's a strikeout of Pedro Feliz, the third baseman. Let's go back to the strikeout of Ryan Howard. Interesting to see his finger and where it's positioned.
Well, you see, watch his index finger is going to be sticking straight up on the breaking ball. There it is right there. And, as a hitter, they will pick that up. He'll only do that on his curveball. So that's something that we really cannot ever remember. He's always got a great curveball, but we've never seen it take that finger that far off the ball.
Would you think a hitter could probably pick up on something like that?
Absolutely. Now, you may not pick up on it on a fastball, but because it's a slower breaking pitch, and remember, a hitter should always be looking for that release point.
Wainwright has struck out 3 so far. 0-2 on Miguel Cairo, the former Cardinal. He's bounced around a bit in his career. There's the curveball lifted out to left, and it drops in front of Duncan. I asked Tony La Russa about the possibility of a move concerning Ankiel, and Jim touched upon it, but they're going to wait a couple of days. They're shorthanded already, and they said, why disable him if in 2 days he's available to play?
Well, and Khalil Green, we saw him pitch it last night. He's eligible, and in their mind, he could start as early as tomorrow, so that gives him a little relief. But to be honest with you, the numbers of the AAA outfielders are not very good.
And the other thing to think about, too, is that you have flexibility in Schumacher if you wanted to move him to the outfield and bring up either Freeze or Mather, but those two guys aren't hitting.
Really struggling. Mather is in the hundreds, and David Freeze, I think, is right at 200.
1 ball, 1 strike. Carlos Ruiz is hitting .235, and he was 1 for 4 last night. Runner at first, and a short lead by Cairo. There's a strike, 1-2. Now he had Cairo in 0-2. Here's another Exmo Cam brought to you by Hot Shots.
But we're not going to say just because he gets a base hit on the curveball and the finger is up that he necessarily saw it. And you can see Wainwright didn't like it. Where he's had success with that breaking ball, particularly this inning, getting a couple guys to chase, is that he's kept the ball a lot lower. Now let's see where this is. As you see, it stays up a little bit, doesn't have that real good downward action. It's on its way down, but it stayed belt high, and that pitch is a lot easier to hit.
Runner goes on 1-2. I don't remember, but was it the index finger that was hurt last year for Wainwright? Or was it more
I think it was the middle finger, I believe.
Okay.
And he missed 65 games with a tendon sheath that ruptured.
1 ball and 2 strikes. It was the right middle finger. So,
and he's lifting the index finger.
Another 1-2 pitch. Here it comes. Almost got the call. He wanted to punch him out.
Thought about it.
2-2.
Brian O'Nora.
Lost in game 1 last night. The fact that the Phillies struck out 11 times and they entered the game with the second fewest Ks in the National League. The 2-2. And there's a strikeout. He strikes out the side. And he has struck out 4 in the first 2 innings. Ludwig leads it off when we come back on Fox Sports Midwest. Fox Saturday Baseball, Evan Longoria and the Rays head to Fenway Park. They'll take on David Ortiz and the Red Sox. A showdown between division rivals. Fox Saturday Baseball returns this week at a special time, 2:30. Following This Week in Baseball at 2 on Fox. He's wearing a Minnesota Vikings shirt. A guy named Brett Favre is potentially again coming out of retirement, possibly, maybe. Not sure yet. I'll let you know in June. But I might join the Vikings. Here's Ryan Ludwig, 1 for 3 last night.
Cardinals have 4 pretty good bats against Brett Meyer. Schumacher, Pujols, Ludwig, and Duncan. And 3, 4, and 5 bunched in there to see what they can do tonight.
They talked about him once he was closing and then back in the starting rotation, easing into games. And what they were saying was that a year ago at this time, Brett Myers, the year before that, closing games out. Then you look at him back in the rotation where he's trying to ease himself and pace himself through 7, 8 innings if he can get there 9 instead of just being able to let it all out as a closer.
Well, it's a mindset. And like you say, you're just going 100 miles an hour as a closer.
Ludwig hit by the pitch. Leadoff man is on, the first base runner for the Cardinals tonight.
And a couple hit batsmen Cardinals last night. And here's a start here. There's Jim Edmonds and his wife Allison. Talked to Jim today and said he was going to be coming to the game. He's in town. And then his brother-in-law, Allison's brother, is getting married over the weekend.
Here's Chris Duncan, and he drives one into right, off the end of the bat, though. And Worth is there to make the catch, and back to first Ludwig. May have broken his bat on that. Well, did you know that the Cardinals feature kids pricing for all 81 home games? And kids 15 and under can purchase tickets for as low as $7, cheaper than a trip to the movies. For details on kids pricing, visit STLCardinals.com. Great way to come to the game. Yadier Molina is 3 for 14 against Brett Myers. They also talked about the fact that Myers was not able to get on top of the ball and have that sinking action that you want. And his mechanics were a little messed up, and in doing so, not getting on top of it, a lot of pitches were flat and hittable.
Exactly. You know, it's kind of talked a little bit about playing Boyer, what they're trying to get out there to be in a position where you can stretch out and finish off your pitches, and then you keep the ball down in the strike zone.
And the 0-1 pitch to Yadier Molina. Check swing. No. Foul ball. Best season for Brett Myers was back in 2003. That year he was 14-9. And only one time has he been above 200 innings. He has flirted with it a handful of times, but just one time in his career he's been above that 200 innings mark.
Dan, we talked a little bit about Todd Wellemeyer. One of the things he's trying to work out is the fact that his arm is dragging. When your arm drags, then you, instead of staying on top of the ball, you're kind of pushing it. And everything is elevated, but you can't finish off your breaking ball, and so it has a frisbee effect instead of having that good downward action or that tilt. And I think Welly in his last start was much better, and I think they figured they were on the right course to get him on track.
The check on Ludwig over at first. Mitchell Boggs will get the start tomorrow, his 3rd start of the season against the Pirates. I'm not a big fan of these 2-game series, are you?
Not at all. Not at all.
I think for the visiting team, it's a little tougher than the home team.
Much tougher. And, you know, baseball players are accustomed to, you know, at least getting into a hotel room and know they're going to be there for 3 days and unpack the bags a bit.
Phillies will see the Mets tomorrow. They'll have 2 games at Citi Field and then be back home at Citizens Bank Park on Friday night.
And then by the same token, when you get a 4-game series, it feels like you've been in that town way too long.
Absolutely. Washington comes to mind. I love our nation's capital.
Oh, yes.
0-2 is the count on Molina. Yadier is hitting .313. Couple of home runs. And the 0-2 to him. Fly ball, and Worth has been busy so far, the former catcher, Jason Worth. Follow the Cardinals on your iPhone and iPod Touch with MLB.com at Bat 2009. It features play-by-play, video highlights, and live audio broadcasts. Visit STLCardinals.com on your iPhone or iPod Touch to purchase that today. Two outs and a runner at first for Colby Rasmus, and he pulls it foul. Speaking with Colby before the game, his most comfortable position is center field, and you hope that with him being comfortable in center, that carries over to what he could do at the plate here tonight.
And you just hope he's just getting more comfortable, getting acclimated to the major leagues and his teammates.
And a ground ball over to get it. Cairo, and makes the play on the outfield grass. Young fans here at Busch Stadium watching the Phillies and the Cardinals in Game 2 of this series. Jimmy Rollins at the top of Well, one of the keys tonight, walks for Adam Wainwright. 18. That's uncharacteristic of Wainwright. Fourth most in baseball. And that's our Toyota key to the game. Don't walk anybody. And so far he hasn't. And he has struck out 4 on the night. And the pitcher, Brett Myers, will lead it off for the Philadelphia Phillies. And Scott Terry, our good buddy and former Cardinal pitcher, is with us here in our booth at Busch Stadium, and always nice to see you. How are you?
I'm doing okay, and yourself?
I'm doing great, and this time of year we start talking about the kids' clinics here in St. Louis, not just for boys, but for girls as well.
Absolutely. 7 to 13 years old, and it's our 5th year. Can you believe it? 5 years we've been doing this.
And there's a little looper into center, and Rasmus won't get it. Drops in for a base hit. Of course, you're involved. I know Ricky Horton is involved. How about some of the other players that are involved as well?
Well, we've got Todd Worrell for the first time this year involved. Andy Bennis. Talked to Cal Eldred in the elevator. He might like to do a couple. You never know.
Get him in the elevator, huh?
Oh, yeah. Plenty of pitching, don't we? You know, pitching always wins. Pitching always beats hitting, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
But Scott Cooper, Kenny Reitz, Kurt Ford, all the guys that have been involved in the past really jump in and do a great job with the kids.
Well, I mentioned you're a former Cardinal, and for people that don't know, how many years here in St. Louis?
I was here from 87 to 92.
87 and 92. The 87 team was pretty good.
Yeah.
Lost in the World Series to the Minnesota Twins. And then things, well, they weren't so good. There were some ups and downs. But along the way, you got to pitch for Whitey Herzog. Absolutely.
And Joe Torre, even, for that matter. And played a few games for Red Shane East when Whitey decided not to manage anymore. So got to play for some really good people and play with some good people.
This is slicing off the bat of Jimmy Rollins, and that's trouble. Cut off by Duncan. Myers on his way to third. And it's second and third, and nobody out for the Phillies, and some big bats coming up. Rollins, a former MVP. Nice piece of hitting right here, Scott. And you being a former pitcher can understand that that's a pitcher running.
That is a pitcher running. And you can tell just by the gait. See how many steps he takes in the same place?
Yes.
That's why they don't get very far.
Well, I noticed Jimmy Rollins kind of coming up on his back. And Rollins, was gliding into second base. And Brett's just chugging over there to third base.
Yeah, they talk about that piano on your back. What they don't really tell you is it's actually the player behind you that's already caught you.
Now, how tough is this spot as a pitcher? And a guy like Wainwright, who you know a little bit, and there's Dave McKay positioning the infielders and also the outfield as well, but you have nobody out. Second and third, what's your mindset in this spot here?
Right here, I've got to get a pop-up or a strikeout if I only want one run to score, and I might be able to keep them both from scoring if I can get 2 of those things. Ground ball back to me wouldn't hurt anything at all either. But right now, you just want to try to at least save a run and hold down a big inning.
These guys can give you fits at the top of their lineup with the speed of Jimmy Rollins and Shane Victorino. That's not easy from a pitcher's perspective.
Well, and they're usually pretty good contact hitters, too. And then, of course, you got those big guys coming in behind them, and there's really no place to put them if those other guys are already on base. So
there's your pop-up.
This is our pop-up if it's shallow enough.
It's going to drop in. Green is over along with Duncan. 2 runs will score to make it 3-0. And that'll wind up being a double, a bloop for Shane Victorino. So a double, 2 RBIs, and a 3-0 lead. So if you're Wainwright now, you just got to all of a sudden say, hey, that's behind me, it's 3-0, and let's get out of this inning.
Yeah, and you're still looking at the same thing here. Let's not let this guy get to third with less than 2 outs and see if we can save this run. But tell you, that right there was really good base running by Rollins because he read that ball well. You'd think maybe he only gets to third since it's a ball that looks like it might get caught, but he ended up scoring.
And now it's Raul Ibanez who popped out to first. This guy is off to a great start. I always hear the term professional hitter. He is that. Looking for a base hit, maybe drive him in or at least pull the ball.
Yeah, he really has plugged into this lineup and really solidified it. I think much more than Burrell, who is now, down in Tampa Bay?
That's right.
To put this left-hander in there, they're really scary now.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. There's your ground ball to the right side. That's a base hit. Victorino is held up at third, and that'll bring in Ryan Howard with nobody out. First and third, nobody out. Scott, what do you see here with the pitch location from Wainwright?
Well, it's a pitch that's on the outer half, which is good, but it's up on the outer half. Unfortunately, it's a pitch that he can handle pretty well.
Very good base running, as you mentioned there, from Jimmy Rollins on that bloop double, and RBI for Victorino to drive in 2. That's what MVPs are supposed to do. And
that's what this baseball team is doing right now. They've played well here. Last night, took advantage of opportunities. The good thing about this situation now is if Wainwright can still get a strikeout or a punch out and then a double play ball, you still save that run. So you're always optimistic and always looking for a way out.
Wainwright threw nothing but breaking balls first time up to Ryan Howard, and he struck out. Ibanez with the base hit to make it first and third, and nobody out. Runners at the corners, well off the line. Joe Thurston at third, and Pujols holding at first. In this era of baseball, and it even has changed as recently from when you played, obviously, but a guy like Ryan Howard has power not just to pull the ball to right, but all fields, and that's what makes him so dangerous. Yeah, he is. He's very difficult, and what makes you want to pitch to him is the fact that he is have the chance to strike out quite often, and he does strike out quite often. So you feel like if you make your pitches, you can get him out, but if you make a mistake, he obviously will make you pay. Does he remind you of anybody that you saw when you were playing? Reminds me a lot of Strawberry, except he's probably not as quick with his bat speed, but he is bigger, thicker. But, he just gets the bat through the zone so quick. 2 balls, 1 strike. Hitters count right here on Ryan Howard. Inside 3-1. I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing. You do have technically a base open at second base, but you'd have then the bases loaded, nobody out. Yeah. Anytime you can get 2 outs with 1 pitch, that will certainly help. So that would be in order. Runners at first and third, and a 3-1 pitch. down low. So the 19th walk this season from Wainwright. And it brings in Jason Worth. And the bases will be loaded and nobody out. How about your thoughts just in general? I know you follow the Cardinals very closely. What do you think of this team and this start?
Oh, outstanding start. You guys have done well. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe me sitting here in this chair has just not done,
I don't think so.
what you and Al have been able to do. But no, I think that they've really opened a lot of eyes to a lot of people around the league. They've been exceptionally well with their starting pitching, even without Carpenter, being able to plug guys into his spot. And, of course, Franklin really solidified the back end of that bullpen. And when he came along and just started nailing down victories. And I think probably the most spectacular thing out of everything they've done was the offensive start that they got.
Yeah, remarkable. You know? Some of the guys that you weren't expecting big starts from. Barton, Thurston, you see 48 pitches so far. Scott Terry is with us. And, by the way, those alumni instructors, Scott Terry, Alan Bennis, Ken Daly, Kerry Robinson, Tom Lawless, Lee Thomas, Neil Fiala, Lonnie Macklin, TJ Matthews, Mike Crudale. What's Mike Crudale doing these days? How
Isn't
did
that
you
amazing?
find him?
Yeah, well, you know, they kind of come out of the woodwork sometimes when they hear baseball.
And Worth cranks one foul. The Phillies, with the bases loaded, have been outstanding this year. We saw that last night. And this includes last night now. 14 for 27. 519 average.
Well, that means they're due not to have success.
I like your thinking.
We'll do a trade-off with that, won't we?
You bet. Number to call, by the way, for those kids' clinics, area code 314-345-9891 or STOCardinals.com. 0-1 pitch. Throw to third, and back in safely is Victorino. Molina, one of the best, Scott, as you well know, in picking off runners.
Yeah, and you can see that was designed. Thurston was breaking to the bag before the pitch was ever thrown, and I like the pitch, too, up and in to Worth, making move his feet. Now he's set up for something off-speed away where hopefully we can get a nice little ground ball or a pop-up.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Worth. That's what you're talking about.
He was there, too. It looked like a pretty good pitch.
But your thoughts on the Ankiel collision last night? Have you ever seen anything like that?
Actually, I did that. When I was in the minor leagues
right?
with the Cincinnati Reds, I hit a wall in right center. I was reaching over for a backhand just like Rick was last night. And on that backhand, when your toe comes down, if it stubs, you have absolutely nothing to stop you except whatever's in front of you. And I wore a wooden wall instead of a padded wall. And I was actually knocked out.
Wow.
And woke up next to the wall with smelling sauce and thought I was in my pajamas.
2 balls and 2 strikes. But thankfully, everything was okay with Ricky Ankiel. He never lost consciousness, so good news here at the ballpark tonight. The 2-2 pitch to Jason Worth. Just missed, and it's 3-2. Big pitch in this game is right here. It's only a 3-0 lead, but you have a full count, bases loaded.
Absolutely. You still have time. You still have a chance right here. This is the pitch of the game to this point, obviously.
On deck, Pedro Feliz, the 3-2. Worth into center. Rasmus makes the catch. Fires into second. And that should be a double play, and it is. A run will score. Victorino tagged up. But they get the double play to make it 4-0.
Yeah, that was very fortunate there that our guy on second base, was that Ibanez?
He's being aggressive here. That's Ibanez, but watch Colby Rasmus. He looks up, and I think he's a bit surprised. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Where's he going?
I have no idea. Looked like to me it was very easily a catchable ball from our perspective, and I know he has a better view than we do. But we'll thank him for the favor, and then hopefully we stop it right here and you get out of the inning.
And this is Pedro Feliz with 2 outs and runner at first. Scott Terry's been kind enough to join us for an inning. He'll be with us in the bottom of the third as well. The 0-1 pitch to Feliz. That's a good breaking ball. We showed earlier with Al the index finger from Wainwright on his breaking ball actually above and not gripping the baseball. And I don't recall ever seeing that.
I've seen it where it's off the ball like that. I've also seen it where guys will actually overlap it.
There's a liner and caught by Skip Schumacher. Phillies add to their lead. It's 4-0 midway through 3. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. By Aflac, we've got you under our wing. And by the Casino Queen, home of the loosest slots. Former Cardinal pitcher Scott Terry is with us. I'm Dan McLaughlin. We're delighted to have you with us, and it's 4-0 on Cinco de Mayo. 4-0 in favor of the Phillies. The Cardinals Alumni Kids Clinics, that's why we have Scott in the booth to talk about that. How many of the kids in the area do you folks hear from?
Several. We usually get a minimum of about 80 per clinic, and the Chesterfield clinics usually our highest. We'll have as many as 125, and that's for both dates.
That's great. Belleville, Fairview Heights, Afton Athletic Association, Manchester, and that's a base hit for Tyler Green. Thinking 2 out of the box and hustling into second base. He showed some speed there.
That's very good. Yeah, he knew that right out of the box that he was going to go for that.
Made a dazzling play at shortstop last night, Ozzie-esque.
I saw that play. Unbelievable arm strength that he showed right there. If you can have that kind of arm strength at short, you've got a long career at this level.
How is your son doing? I know he's a shortstop.
He's at the University of Tennessee at Martin, the Skyhawks. They're not going to get to their conference tournament, but they are better this year. He's actually leading off and playing shortstop for them, and has played every game. I
know you've told me in the past, very good athlete. How about professional ball? Is that in his future?
I don't know. If we can get him to a different position, I think he'll be better. I think he could play shortstop at this level. It's really not even a chance. He's going to be better at second or third.
Firestone leaderboard with Adam Wainwright up, and the Cardinals trailing 4-0. Wainwright has allowed 6 hits, by the way, and that's the first Cardinal base hit. This is sack bunt leaders. Arroyo leading in that category. Ryan Howard is there. So Wainwright can't help himself. Manchester Athletic Association, St. Peter's, Florissant, and Chesterfield. You can find out about the dates and locations at stlcardinals.com. Again, the number to call is area code 314-345-9891. And you can learn from the pros. It's for boys and girls ages 7 to 13.
Yeah, and Belleville and Florissant are two new sites for us this year.
So, Scott, I call up. I say, all right, I'm ready to sign my kid up. What do I get? What do I do?
Well, we find out what his age is, because on Tuesdays we do 7 to 9-year-olds, and on Thursday we do 10 to 13-year-olds. So we stick him on which date he needs to be on, and then when he gets there, he gets a care package, T-shirts, hat, a voucher for Cardinal tickets. And obviously, he gets to spend the day with Cardinal athletes, ex-players, and gets to learn how to play the game.
That's great. No balls and 2 strikes here on Skip Schumacher, making the, I would have to say, I guess, the uncomfortable transition for him from the outfield position to second base, but for the most part, so far, so good.
Yeah, usually it's much easier to make that transition in the other direction because the further away you get, the easier it is to play.
The 0-2. Alfonso Soriano comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy task in the outfield by any means. You got a lot of ground to cover, and obviously, if you make a mistake, it's at least 2 bases. But by the same token, that infield's a little bit of a different beast.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Skip Schumacher. We're talking about the finger of Adam Wainwright, with the curveball tonight being up, the index finger. But I know you were talking during the break. You've seen all kinds of variations of a curveball and how it's thrown and held.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen them spike the pointer finger, to where they just stick it in the ball or even overlap it onto the middle finger. There was a guy that pitched in the bullpen with me, Steve Peters from Oklahoma. Yeah, and with the finger sticking straight up, that's actually the best way to teach a young man how to throw one, because after his release, you want him having that finger pointed at the hitter that's up off the ball, and then that puts that good 12-6 rotation on it. So
interesting.
That's a really good way to teach it right there, the way Adam throws it.
Schumacher fouls it away. Dave Duncan, the Cardinals pitching coach, the longest tenured pitching coach in Major League Baseball history, and a cover story on him in USA Today. It is pretty amazing, some of the projects that he's had over the years and helped those individuals, whether it be Kent Bottenfield or Wellemeyer now that has made the transition from the bullpen to the starting rotation, but he's had great success.
Yeah, it's a tremendous tribute to him and what he's given the game of baseball. There's been very few that have done what he's been able to do for the amount of time and length of time that he's done it. I think he's outstanding with everything that he does, and to be critical of him in any way really is a disgrace to the game and his profession, because he's been so very good with it.
3-2 the count on Skip Schumacher with 1 out and a runner at second. Schumacher lines it into left center field. They'll hold up the runner at third, and Schumacher with that will take second. They did not hit the cut.
There's your baseball fundamentals right there. It's amazing. You can keep stats on a game, and if you see how many extra at-bats because of an error, or how many extra bases a team has gotten because of a bad throw or missing a cutoff man, it's kind of like turnovers in football. Usually the team that gets the most of those is the team that wins.
And that's a Gold Glover from a year ago in center field in Shane Victorino.
Well, it's kind of surprising that they would even throw that ball to home plate, given that they've got a 4-run lead.
Absolutely. And now it brings in Joe Thurston. What's the biggest change that you've seen from when you were playing to what you see now?
I just think the way the game is played, the style of game, you don't see as much bunting, you don't see as much running, you don't see as much hitting and running, manufacturing runs.
And you saw a ton of it with Waddy Herzog.
Yeah, and you don't see many clubs that do that anymore, even if they have speed. It's usually 1 or 2 guys that can run, and it's really not speed throughout a lineup. And, pitching and defense are very integral parts of the game, but the speed aspect of it got probably the biggest part that has changed.
Thurston could get the Cardinals right back in this game. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, 2 runners on. That's Green over at third. And at second base, Skip Schumacher on a heads-up play to take second on the throw from Victorino. Trying to extend it to Pujols here. Are you as amazed watching big number 5 as we all are on a nightly basis?
To me, it's unbelievable what he can do. I've never seen, as long as I followed the game and played the game, and that's been a lot of years. I'm 49 now. I've never seen anybody square up the ball as often as he does. He just hits the ball hard on a line more than anybody I've ever seen on a consistent basis.
And Scott, you think about the hot summers here in St. Louis and wearing down at the end of the year. He doesn't do that. It's a ground ball to Rollins to his left. Low throw picked by the first baseman Howard, and the Cardinals get on the board. But this guy does not wear down.
No, and he can level off any pitch. I mean, if the pitch is down, he still puts a level swing on it. If the pitch is up, he can still get on top of the ball and drive it in a gap. It's just, to me, it's unbelievable how he can swing level and level off and square up every pitch in the strike zone.
When you were pitching, did you say, okay, I'm going to look at that opposing lineup, and this guy is not going to beat me, meaning he's not going to get a pitch to hit, which is probably going to be the case here with Albert Pujols?
I would agree. I don't know how you could possibly let this guy beat you. And I thought the way Lou Piniella described it and the way the Cubs pitched him is probably going to be the approach more often than not.
Scott Terry with us. And the first pitch is up and into Albert Pujols. Again, the Cardinals Alumni Kids Clinics for boys and girls ages 7 to 13. All summer long here in St. Louis in the metro area. 314-345-9891 to find out more. And STOCardinals.com. Here's a 1-0 pitch. Myers to Pujols. That was a hittable pitch.
He got away with one, I do believe. You know, and that's the thing about Albert is they're going to throw pitches to him. They're not just going to intentionally walk him, and it's going to be up to his discipline as to whether or not he gets himself out or not. And he shows a tremendous amount of discipline. He has all the faith in the world on the guy on deck to go ahead and do his job, too.
Outside of being very, very cautious, how would you pitch to Pujols?
Well, you know, he shows me a susceptibility to the pitch that I threw, which was a sinker down and in. And that's about the only pitch that I see that he has possibly a hole at times. It's a difficult pitch to hit for a right-hander when you sink the ball down and in the zone.
Always great to see you.
I appreciate you guys letting me come on.
Scott Terry with us here on Fox Sports Midwest, and it's 4-1.
It.
That's right. And 2 RBIs for Victor Reno.
Yeah, so 3 on the day.
And we are back, and Miguel Cairo will lead it off for the Phillies. First pitch and a fly ball into right. Ludwig is there. That last inning could have been much worse for Wainwright. We want to remind you that the Brewers will be in town May 15th. Bud Light T-shirt night for his 25,000 fans ages 21 and over. Get that Bud Light T-shirt. For tickets, go to STLCardinals.com.
You're right. It could have been much worse as he got 3 outs for the last 2 batters, and only the line drive, well, sacrifice, but line drive double play produced an RBI for Worth, and then the line drive to off the bat of Feliz to end the inning. They did get 4 hits and 3 runs that inning, but as you said, they had a big inning that kind of fell apart.
And this is Carlos Ruiz, the 8th place hitter, followed by Brett Myers. Only walk for Wainwright tonight was to Ryan Howard, and this is a look at the last 8 games in St. Louis. Look at that. The Philly runs 46 to 25.
What is it about Cinco de Mayo and the Cardinals? Cardinals have really struggled. They've lost 7 straight home games played on Cinco de Mayo and 14 of the last 16. Now, they're not going to lose this one.
A jam shot popped up, and Skip Schumacher is there. Fox Sports Midwest is now on Facebook and Twitter. Become a fan of Fox Sports Midwest on Facebook and see Cardinals video and photos. Pat is feverishly working the phones to get the scoop on all that is Cardinals baseball so he can tweet.
You know, the best thing about that trio is now that they've got Twitter, they're not eating.
Well, the last time we had a shot of them, Jim had the hot dogs going. He had soda and popcorn. I think there's a little popcorn there, isn't there?
Well, but that's Pat Prayers, you know. But at least he wouldn't put his hand in it.
Cal Eldred's up there, and Myers spins away from that. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Brett Myers. Little chopper handled by Green. And that's a 1-2-3 inning for Adam Wainwright. This date in history, in baseball history, brought to you by Schnucks, Bob Gibson, and the Mad Hungarian Al Rabaski team up to take down Steve Carlton and the Phillies 11-3 back in 1975.
Apparently, Carlton gave up 8 runs to the mighty Birdos that game.
Of course, you remember vividly all games, all situations.
You know what? I don't. And I don't remember that one. But there are some that you do. It's amazing how the better ones stick out, though.
I'm sure. On May 16th, 25,000 fans ages 16 and up receive a Cardinals baseball cap to wear all season long, courtesy of U.S. Cellular. And you can get your tickets today by calling 314-345-9500 or STOCardinals.com.
The oddity in that game, and of course, if Carlton gave up 8 runs and it ends up 11-3, how come Gibby didn't finish it?
And I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of game that most of the time when Gibson pitched, the bullpen had the night off.
But you never went in thinking that way, did you?
Gibby did.
Well, maybe sometimes. There's a deep fly ball into left. Out of here. Ludwig, his 7th home run. And that makes it a 4-2 game.
22nd RBI already for Ryan Ludwig. As Ludwig and Pujols have over 50 combined now. 16 home runs, 51 RBIs. So you get a slider out there, and he puts a charge in it into the visitors' bullpen for his 7th home run. Reaches down and gets it and lifts it up and out. Cardinals are pecking away here on Cinco de Mayo.
And now it's a 4-2 game. Cardinals pecking away, as you mentioned, and only 2 runs down. And here's Duncan, who flied out to right his first time up. This date in baseball history was 1975, and that season was a good year for Al Rabosky, the fireman of the year that year in 1975. The former closer here in St. Louis. What is amazing is that if you ask Tony La Russa about situations, say 6th inning of a game, that you have to tell him who was involved, what players, but I mean, he'll tell you what happened. He doesn't forget many of those. You do, he doesn't.
Well, I mean, I also have seen some quote-unquote, and I'm not making this reference to Tony, but I've seen some quote-unquote historians who will talk about things that happened 30, 40 years ago, and nobody's around to dispute it, but yet they'll talk about what happened last week and they get those wrong. Not Tony, but other experts and historians.
Ludwig's home run measured at 402 feet. And Molina takes a ball outside. 2 balls, no strikes. Yadier flied to right his first time up. And you get the expert help right away from Pops. That's a position for him that makes him unique. A former catcher, and having an understanding of what the hitters are thinking as well.
Well, he could be an excellent hitting coach.
You've always said that.
Yeah, with his knowledge of pitching, he could just reverse it. I'll tell you what pitchers are trying to do to you.
2-2.
You've got Mike Aldretti, who is a left-handed hitter to help the lefties, and also, Hal McRae. But then, a third party, Dave Duncan, to help out certain individuals.
And there's a look at your former teammate in Kansas City, Hal McRae.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win situation. It makes a lot of sense having that second.
Molina, left field, track, wall, gone. 4-3.
And we talked about it now. Molina and Ludwig have hit the 9th and 10th home runs against Myers. That is more home runs than the Cardinals starting 5 have allowed this year. Up and in, and he jumps on that pitch looking for something inside, and a high delivery. They got on top of it and hit that ball well into the stands left of the bullpen for Molina's 3rd home run and 13th RBI.
And here is Colby. Molina rounding first base, pointing towards the Cardinal dugout.
I just wonder if they've detected something, or whether Albert or Hal McRae or somebody, Chad Blair, finding something on the video that that these guys now could use against Brett Myers.
And here's an 0-1 pitch to Rasmus. Tap back to Myers. He'll step and throw. And there's 2 outs. So Ludwig picks up his 7th and his 22nd RBI. Yadier Molina his 3rd and his 13th RBI. That's what I was thinking, Al. Maybe he picked up something from Albert or one of his teammates.
Oh, you wouldn't doubt it. I mean, all the conversations on that bench, are strictly about game conditions, what's transpiring, how close he is with Albert. But I was saying, like with Mike Aldretti, he can be back underneath the cages if somebody needs a little pick-me-up or needs some kind of little, even if it's throw batting practice in the indoor cage there, or do a little tee work.
And they also, with Aldretti and Chad Blair and his staff, are breaking down video in the game.
Sure. And, we always talk about how Albert, after a good or a bad at bat, will go run up into the video room and check out what happened there, what transpired. But a lot of resources today.
Liner into center. Green is 2 for 2. Good to see his bat come alive a little bit tonight. And how about his speed on the double?
Yeah, it was nice to see that. A young guy not afraid to make a mistake when you're behind. but took advantage of the defense.
Well, 6 is a serious number. When the Cardinals score 6, you get a 20-ounce coffee, fountain, or frozen drink for just $0.25 the next day at On the Run at Mobile.
So
Tony was asked Al about Tyler Green, and he said, prior to this year, he's a guy we knew about, but it was this spring that finally we had to serve notice that this guy can help us this season.
Right. They were much aware that Tyler Green was a first-round draft pick and out of Georgia Tech, a good baseball program, but he really hadn't done anything in the minor leagues other than show that he had the defensive ability.
And there he goes. But a ground ball hit to third, handled by Pedro Feliz. Cardinals now with 5 hits and a couple of home runs. Here in the 4th, it started with Ludwig. Then Yadier Molina on a high delivery. 2 solo shots against Brett Myers. We move to the 5th. Brand new game. It's now 4-3. Ludwig and Molina, the home run hitters for the Cardinals in the bottom of the 4th. Thinking caps on, let's take a look at the Aflac trivia question. Who are the only 3 World Series champs to lose their first 2 games the following year, scoring no more than 1 run?
Got a hint.
2009 Phillies, and they've made a habit of coming back this year.
Yeah, 11 of their 13 wins have come from behind.
There's Rollins, top of the lineup. You always talk about the 5th being that inning that gets you over the hump, and he's got the top of the lineup to deal with here.
Well, it's one of those real important innings where you just go out there and
base hit,
bow your neck and try to make it a very efficient inning.
So Rollins is aboard. You always have to be worried about his speed over at first and the threat of a steal.
See, the breaking ball, when he swung, it was still chest or letter high. So he's left a lot of those breaking pitches up in the zone. You can't do that to good hitters, and Victorino has already made him pay a couple times tonight.
Victorino with a home run. He also has a double and 2 RBIs. On April 18th, he was hitting .220 and had just gone 0 for 4 against the Padres. He was in a rut. Now a 14-game hitting streak, which includes tonight. And Charlie Manuel was asked about possibly sitting him during that stretch, and he said no way. He said the more he plays, the better he gets. And you're not going to see a prolonged slump from Victorino, more than likely because he's a switch hitter and he's got speed.
Sometimes when a manager gives you that confidence when you're struggling, that's all you need.
Quick move that time by Wainwright. 4-3. Phillies leading St. Louis as we play here in the 5th. Perseverance for Shane Victorino. In 2005, he was selected in the Rule 5 draft had to make the Phillies to stay. He didn't, and the Dodgers, his original team, said no thanks, you can just keep him. Stayed with the Phillies, went to AAA, and was the International League's MVP that season. The following year, he was a regular for the Phils. They traded away Bobby Abreu, and with his emergence in center field, they let Aaron Rowan walk as a free agent.
He's a guy that had to grow on. Size-wise, power-wise, you're not really overly impressed, but over a course of time, you can say this is a pretty good ball player.
Very good defensive player. As Rollins was a threat to go, they almost picked him off at first base. He started towards second. I'm not sure if that was designed by him or he just didn't get a good read.
A lot of times, you get a base stealer, he'll start to go, but when he doesn't have that good jump, he knows he's got to stop. And Albert really making sure he catches this ball before he can apply the tag.
Great camera work by our crew.
See, he put the glove down, but it was at the back edge, and he slid to the front portion.
And the 1-1 pitch swung on and missed. Victorino is only 28, selected by the Dodgers in the 6th round of the 1999 draft, and not only was he a Rule 5 pickup once, but twice. That's perseverance. He is from Hawaii.
Well, it goes to show that somebody recognized that talent and enough to draft him, in the Rule 5 draft.
And a quick move. First resident of the Hawaiian island of Maui to play in the big league since 1925. His dad is a councilman in Hawaii. He says he loves it when folks boo his son, and he had to be reminded that that may happen at his home ballpark too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Fit at home in Philadelphia, wouldn't it?
That's right.
We'd have to think that Jimmy Rollins has got the spring is taken out of his legs.
He was great in the postseason last year for the Phillies. He had 13 RBIs. Did Victorino, 6 against his former team, Los Angeles. He had the grand slam against CC Sabathia. And the leader in the postseason, though, was B.J. Upton. He had 16 RBIs for the Rays. He does have a little pop. He had 14 home runs last year, and he's already picked up his 4th this season. 1-2 pitch. Behind Molina. And it stays 1-2. Cincinnati leading Florida 7-0. That ball game in the bottom of the 7th. San Francisco beat the Cubs earlier today at Wrigley behind Tim Lincecum 6-2. One ball and 2 strikes on Victorino. There goes Rollins. Perfectly done. Rollins on his way to third. And here come the Phillies again. That's how you draw it up. Shane Victorino now is a triple away from the cycle.
You can watch out with him running. Tyler Green, the shortstop, breaks to second base, vacates the shortstop area, and the ball hit right where he left.
Here's Ibanez with runners at the corners, and trouble again for Adam Wainwright.
Right. Unfortunately, Cardinals have scored 3 runs to get back in this ball game, but now Phillies threatening again, and they have a very good offense, and you're in a tough part of it now.
Ibanez last time up a single, but then a base running mistake. An inning that could have been much worse. He was at second, and a line drive with the bases loaded was on his way to third, then a double play. Cardinals since then have cut the lead to 4-3. His signing raised some eyebrows around baseball. He'll be 37 next month. Got a 3-year, $31 million contract. Did not become a regular until he was 27. That's tapped foul. 0-2. Love the strikeout here.
Ibanez looks like he stands away from the plate with an open stance, much like Ryan Howard. And you got to be careful. You come inside, you better make sure you get in far enough. Go to first base with a fake to third, throw to first.
Oh, they got him. He's out at first. Victorino, who had 36 steals last year, fell for it. You don't see that very often.
Dan, sometimes the most likely candidates are good base stealers because they think they're a good base stealer. And Jimmy Rollins knows all about it. He recognizes it's going to be the fake to third, throw to first. But Victorino made that false step towards second, and that's all they needed with snap, throw, and tag.
That is huge. 0-2 now. Great block by Yadier Molina. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Just get used to seeing that. The Molina brothers in the major leagues. And he might be the best of the bunch.
I think when it's all said and done, he probably will be. I'm sure his brothers would agree. They're a pretty talented family.
Which includes a dad that was a very good player, too. Sets up inside. Here's the 1-2. Got him. And just like that, there's 2 outs. That kickoff of Victorino is the kind of play, if you get out of the inning, that could change the complexion of the momentum of this game.
It was supposed to be a fastball in, but it was up out over the plate, had a little movement righting, and the 5th strikeout for Wainwright tonight. Still not out of the woods, but you can pitch around Ryan here.
So here is Ryan Howard, first base open. They walked him last time up and struck out on some good breaking balls back in the first.
Didn't want the fastball in, fastball away, didn't want that. Didn't want the slider, wants the curveball. Look how far outside Molina's set up. It's either a perfect pitch down and away or it's a ball. Give you an indication at least what Molina is thinking. Because you're not going to let Ryan Howard drive in the 2 outs, not let him drive in the runner from third.
League leader a season ago in home runs. He had 48, drove in 146. The 29-year-old was drafted in the 5th round of the 2001 draft.
Right, fastball in, but you see Molina accentuate way in. That's where he wanted it, right there, where if he swings at it, the only thing to do is pull it foul. Even at 3-0, Tony is reluctant to just intentionally pass someone. And as a pitcher, you don't like to see that anyway. Back away, don't give in.
So they walk Howard. No shame in that. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Here is Jason Worth, former #1 pick of the Baltimore Orioles at that time in 1997. He was a catcher. Then was dealt to the Blue Jays for left-handed pitcher John Bale. You may remember him.
Yeah. Dad was a catcher. His father-in-law, Dusty Schofield.
That's right. Jason's stepfather is Dennis Worth, who played 4 seasons, mostly with the Yankees. Check swing and a strike.
It's got some pop, so you don't want to make a mistake to it.
2 outs, runners at the corners, 1 ball, 1 strike. Down the left field line, it's hammered, and this ball is gone. A long home run off the bat of Jason Worth, his 4th of the season. And a big blow midway in this game.
Fourth home run, fourth RBI of the game, a 3-run shot, and he's talked about how he's got good pop. They try to go in. You better get in there far enough. Shortest part of the field, and that's where he's got the most pop. And Wainwright can't believe it as it hits the third deck. Just to the left, big match play.
7-3 Phillies. Pedro Feliz. Sitting up there, you're not thinking that you're getting a souvenir. One ball, one strike with 2 outs, nobody on. Shane Victorino with a home run, and now Jason Worth with a 3-run shot. 2 strikes on Feliz. ...414 feet, the measured distance of that home run.
Hard to believe it. Third deck.
Let's see many go up there. Pujols underhands to Wainwright for the final out here in the top of the 5th. Top of the lineup coming up for the Cardinals. 7-3 Phillies. Bud Light, what's on tap? The difference is drinkability. And we say hello to the Pirates tomorrow night. And we're on the air at 6:30 on FSN Midwest. Chris Carpenter, and there is Rick Ankiel to the right. Good to see that.
Doesn't look like he's any worse for wear, does he? Looks good. I'm sure he's awful stiff.
His hat, by the way, is in Tony La Russa's office, and you talked about it last night, how bent and beat up it looked with the torque and the hat and the bill of the cap.
I've never seen a hat fold, halfway on the bill. Just the collision he made and it stayed on his head.
Tony, will keep certain things along the way that mean something to him, and obviously what stands out is the effort of Rick Ankiel. By the way, our good buddy Bill Rowe inducted into the Missouri State Athletic Director. Bill Rowe inducted into the National Association of College Directors of Athletics. Let's check in with Jim Hayes. And Jim, I know you have a little bit more information on Rick Ankiel and that scary situation last night.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to him just before the game. He was back in his element, back in the clubhouse with his teammates. Actually, Dan, we talked about it earlier. his teammates were ribbing him, saying that he held up the game because he laid out there. Obviously, they were relieved, as everyone was. Rick Ankiel told me upon impact he thought this might be it. I thought I broke my neck. But he's been given a clean bill of health. He had an MRI today on his right shoulder. There's a contusion, a bruising situation. It's going to be a few days until he gets back in the lineup. But overall soreness, that's good from what we saw last night.
And looking at his face, Jim, you know, you might anticipate some cuts and bruises, but at least looking at it on our monitor here, it doesn't seem to be the case. How about up close?
He had a little cut on the left side of his face. I guess that was part of his face that made impact with the wall. But talking to the team doctor who watched the tape, he said the fact that Rick was able to get his left hand up and he hit the wall with the side of his head instead of a direct on impact probably saved Rick from doing some serious damage.
Jim Hayes with us, and this is Joe Thurston. And he takes a ball a little bit low.
Again, a lot of people forget about it in the Saturday game. Back on the warning track, he lost his balance and he ran into the back of his head into the wall. So a couple of the double whammy, went in the front and back.
That catches the outside corner. Go ahead, Jim.
His teammates were talking about how tough Rick Ankiel is. He did hit his head the other night. A 6-1 game last night, and there's Rick Ankiel going 100 miles an hour, not worried about his own body.
Yeah, you think about the situation, like you said, of the game, and all the teammates that went out to visit with him and to make sure that he was going to be okay. He never lost consciousness. And Chris Duncan talked to him, but he didn't want to move. And did you ask him at all, Jim, or did anybody ask him about the padding on the wall? And has that been talked about today at the ballpark in visiting with some of the players down there?
I talked to a couple of players about the padding. They felt like the padding in the outfield is fine. They feel like accidents are going to happen, and you can't protect against anything. And who knows, if the padding wasn't good enough, maybe Rick Ankiel would be hurt worse than he is, which is at present not a very serious situation. He just needs a few days.
And now we were talking about this. You know, it's amazing that you don't see more of those injuries, not necessarily to the severity of a Rick Ankiel, but you know, at Wrigley Field with the ivy and the brick wall, no padding whatsoever.
Yeah, especially early in the season when the ivy hasn't grown in there. You can see that that's concrete on the bottom, right below the green. That is a concrete, and you know, so you could see some injuries, you know, result of somebody running into that portion.
There's a drive into right field off the bat of Thurston again for the second consecutive night. Worth is playing in. You see that strong arm back to the infield by Jason Worth. Remember last night it was Thurston that had a couple of doubles, and one of those, and we noted it right before he hit it, the fact that the outfield, in particular Worth, the right fielder, was playing in.
Well, I think it's interesting too, Dan, that he was former property of the Phillies, so they're playing in, not respecting at least his line drive power, and he's burned him a couple times.
Pujols quiet in this series, no hits so far.
That's his 8th double. That ties Duncan for the team lead.
Cardinals slugger has lined out to right, also flied out to left. He could pull the Cardinals to within 2. One out, runner at second base in Thurston. The 1-0. Off speed pitch in there for a strike.
And his knees buckling a little bit, but broke over. I think Albert not afraid to hit behind in the count. And really doesn't look like this outfield is playing very deep for Albert either.
1-1 pitch. Pujols swinging through that breaking ball. Remember when Myers first got to the big leagues? He had that nasty curveball.
There's a pretty good example of one right there.
1-2 the count on the outstanding player Albert Pujols, the reigning MVP. On a hop to second. So throwing over to first, Cairo, and they had him positioned perfectly. Albert is over 3. brings in Ludwig. Ludwig was hit by a pitch back in the second inning and homered in the fourth. At Busch Stadium in 5 games at the new Busch Stadium, Brett Myers 20 2/3 coming into play tonight and 16 earned runs. And again, St. Louis in his career an ERA over 5 in 12 games. 3-2 against the Cardinals.
Blanton righted himself last night. A starting pitcher for the Phils. They came in here. Phillies really wondering what kind of pitching they would get from Blanton and Myers. Both of them have been struggling, but they pitched effectively, particularly Blanton last night.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Ludwig. 1 ball, 1 strike. Blanton 6 innings. Gave up a run that was earned, 4 hits. He's now 2-0 with a 1.38 ERA in 2 starts against the Cardinals.
Yeah, one of his better starts last year. He was 4-0, was against the Cardinals, and it sure looked like last night was his best stuff of the year.
1-1 pitch to Ludwig. Lined into left field for a base hit. Thurston being waved in. Ibanez bobbled it, and Joe will score easily. Second RBI tonight for Ryan Ludwig. He's up to 23.
Put pressure on the defense. Thurston was going to be sent home by Alkindo no matter what, but Ibanez coming in and couldn't field the ball cleanly, and that guaranteed that Thurston was going to score. Cardinals need to keep on pecking away. Watch now, you see he's being sent home all the way by Alkindo, and then when Ibanez had trouble with the exchange, guaranteed that he would come home.
Duncan, breaking ball, a strike. Chris tonight is flied to right off the end of the bat. Also grounded out to first. Think about Blanton last night. When he missed down.
He missed down, and he missed on, everything out of the middle of the plate.
Duncan, right field, did not get enough. That'll hang up there for Worth, and he'll put it away. He's 0 for 3 on the night. 7-3. Discounts on great seats. Busch Stadium is the scene in St. Louis. Cardinals trail by 3. Strike to Miguel Cairo. We would like to wish a longtime Cardinal fan, Ardell Hackman, well in his rehab program. Been following the Cardinals for decades. Ardell Hackman, we wish you well. Also want to wish a get well to Richard Durkis, who has been with us for a number of years down in the visiting clubhouse. It's at St. Anthony's, and Richard is watching tonight. Richard is one of our good buddies, and we want him back at the ballpark as soon as possible. Richard Durkis. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Cairo.
Got a nice career, hasn't he?
Sure has. You always talk about, the relievers not pricing themselves out of a free agent market. How about some of the utility players? Here's one of them.
Yeah, don't get too greedy. Stay in a cost-effective mode, and you can hang around a long time, especially if you play as many positions as he does.
Fly ball into center, and Colby Rasmus is there. He's got it for the first out. Talked to Colby about playing center field and the difference in playing center as opposed to playing right, which is where he primarily has been. Had a chat with him before the game about it, and he said the thing about playing center field, and he's done it all his life, and this is Carlos Ruiz. He says, I think the game like the pitcher and the hitter might think. So if I know something off speed might be coming and that hitter may get into it, I'll shape for that hitter to pull and start to get a little bit of a jump with it. And Dave McKay works with the outfielders. And we saw Edmonds do that all the time. Read what the pitcher was going to throw and have an understanding of the hitters that are at the plate.
You can have a sixth sense, and sometimes you'll get good fielders that just kind of know what's going on. You'll see a move actually before the pitch because they have a feel. It's Jimmy's young son. He also has his brand new daughter with him tonight. We saw him carrying. What do you call it? What kind of carrier would that be for the baby?
That would be a baby carrier.
Oh, okay. Not versus an adult carrier, right? Thank you, Dan.
I'm not sure of the technical term, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
Are you talking about the one that straps on?
No, I mean,
there,
remember he was walking, whether it was in the car seat, or.
Well, that would be a car seat.
Well, I know, but now they have the multi-faceted one. I think the baby's with his mother-in-law off to the side. That's Landon.
2-2 pitch. Ground ball. Thurston makes the play. Something that the starters will do is watch each other's bullpen, which is something that a lot of other teams, I'm not sure if I know of any other team if they do that, but the starters will watch each other in the bullpen in their side sessions and try to help each other out, or those starters will try to pick up on something maybe that particular starter is doing and incorporate it into what they do.
It makes common sense. You go out there and maybe you see somebody else do something that you're either guilty of, and how he tries to correct it may be the key to how you correct your flaw. Or you can, as Dave Duncan is very open with those guys and say, if you see something, help us out.
Here's a ground ball to second. Schumacher to Albert. It'll be Molina, who is homer tonight. Rasmus and Tyler Green coming up. It's 7-4. Cardinal fans, when it comes to tickets, you deserve Major League service, so go online to StubHub. It's the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Cardinals and the only site with Fan Protect guaranteed. Phillies with 1 in the first, 3 in the third, and 3 in the fifth on one swing of the bat by Jason Worth, one of the longest home runs we've seen so far this year. And the Phillies have 9 hits, and let's check in again with Jim Hayes. And Jim, that's something unique that the Cardinals do, those starters getting together and watching those side sessions every single day.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. It's really twofold, at least according to Kyle Loesch. Number one, they build kind of a circle of trust. And number two, they put more eyes on each starting pitcher's delivery. And Joel Pinheiro told me that some of the other starters have actually picked up little flaws in his delivery because of the extra eyes. I asked Dave Duncan, I said, Dave, do you like having the extra eyes watching the bullpens? And he said, absolutely.
And here's the first pitch to Yadier Molina. You know, the players actually started that, what was it, Jim, about 2006, 2005?
Yeah, and, you know, I think Chris Carpenter probably had a lot to do with it. But it's something that's kept on going. And I asked Dave Duncan, I said, is there a correlation between pitching staff being tightly knit, being a close group, and having effectiveness, you know, as a collective unit? And he said he thought there was.
And that's popped foul out of play. Now, Mitchell Boggs is new to the scene. How much does he talk about? And he'll get the start tomorrow, Mitchell Boggs. How much does he talk to these starters and try to pick their brain a little bit on what happens here at the Major League level?
He says the veterans in the rotation have been great to him. He says as important as that, he said, is getting the experience as a starter last year and learning from that. He says he feels more comfortable and more ready to go out and be effective. And we've seen it thus far, Dan.
Yeah, and Jim, you know, something to follow up on. Mitchell Boggs right now is in Chris Carpenter's spot. And Carpenter played catch yesterday at around 2 in the afternoon with Barry Weinberg, the Cardinals trainer, as Molina lines it into right field for a base hit. And that's the first time that he had thrown a baseball since he tore the left oblique about 3 weeks ago. So how do you think that is going to play out with Chris Carpenter and what that timetable may be?
Obviously, having Chris Carpenter come back would be huge, but I think Tony La Russa would agree with me. You can't think about that right now. I think if you're looking for one of the keys to the success of the Cardinals in the early going, it's making the most of opportunities. Mitchell Boggs has done it. Brian Barden has done it. Same with Joe Thurston. They can't worry about the guys who are getting better. They got to worry about it game to game and go out there and pile up the W's.
And Al, I was talking with Tony in his office about that today, and I know there is some talk. He wasn't sure about it, but the Carpenter at some point could be back on the mound and at least just throwing. And that would be a huge step in the right direction.
Well, you got to take baby steps. And Kobe's hit by a pitch. So the second Cardinal hit, and that's that 4th in the 2 games as they are trying to pitch inside. And, you know, I've always said if you're a pitcher, now Tony doesn't agree with this, but this is a different philosophy. If you pitch inside, you know, you pitch inside and you'd rather hit somebody than leave a ball out over the plate. He's left a couple balls out of the plate, and he's already given up 2 home runs.
Well, you've got Wainwright's spot on deck, and here is Green. He's had a 2-hit night with a double and a single. And so he'll get the bullpen going to pinch hit for Wainwright.
Reyes has been throwing this entire inning, and Scott Air is throwing for the Phillies. But, you know, going back to Carpenter, I think play catch, see how he responds in a day or two just playing catch. But Tony almost might have tipped his hand, and recall with Woody Williams, he said, remember, he didn't need rehab assignments. A bit risky. But, I mean, Carpenter, you know, is so important to this ball club and is not going to do anything that's silly. And they will try and give him the best option, you know, how to get him back there and get him back as quick as possible, but, you know, with him ready.
1 ball, 1 strike. Tyler Green came up in a key spot last night with the bases loaded and 1 out, struck out. Tonight, Green with a double and also a single. Looks more comfortable tonight at the plate. I think you could say that. He looks more aggressive. 2 strikes now and chokes up a bit on the bat. Now McRae looking on. One-two pitch.
One thing that comes to mind when you say he looks more aggressive. One thing you got to understand, in this Cardinal lineup, the pitcher's going to go right after the 8th place hitter. So he should be accustomed to seeing a lot of pitches to hit. So it is the right approach to be aggressive.
2-2 to Tyler Green. Doesn't chase that pitch. It's a couple of pitches right there that I'm not sure he lays off when he first got here.
I think because it's that nervous energy, you're trying to impress, and you hear the term aggressive, but aggressive in the strike zone. There's a big difference in that pitch recognition.
Very shallow, and they play him straight away in the outfield. A chance to do damage here. Nobody out. First and second to 3-2. He struck him out. He saw 3 consecutive breaking balls, and he strikes out.
And there's that slider he goes after, but that's that good pitcher's pitch down and away. Because of the short bench, you almost have to let Wainwright hit for himself.
Absolutely. You don't have Ankiel. Your backup catcher is LaRue. Khalil Green and Brian Barton are the only 2 left.
Strikeout wasn't the worst thing. But obviously you would like to see the runners both advance, at the least have a productive out. At least you didn't hit into a triple play or double play.
Looking at the way that this started, and now Wainwright will visit with Jose Oquendo. On paper, you're saying, okay, you're going to see Brett Myers, Joe Blanton. You're not seeing Moyer and Hamels, 2 lefties.
Cardinals have been very fortunate in some of these series that they have missed the other team's aces.
Wainwright initially showing bunt and takes a ball. A crowd tonight, 36,754.
Remember, Schumacher is 1 for 3 tonight, but good success against his starter, Brett Myers. So, but you just never know whether it's going to be a sacrifice or not.
Wainwright swinging away, base hit in the left. And the bases will be loaded now for Skip Schumacher with only 1 out.
Question is, will Schumacher face Brett Myers? And the answer is probably no.
I can't see that happening. He's got a base hit tonight, 1 for 3, and that now makes him 6 for 13 with 2 home runs against Brett Myers. They've got a couple of lefties out there. One of them that's not there is J.C. Romero, who was so tough on the lefties a season ago.
Scott Air is warming up. Charlie's slow walk. He hasn't signaled to the bullpen yet, but now he has, and that is the 9th hit allowed by Myers today. Bring in the lefty.
So he pitches into the 6th, records 1 out. This is our Chevrolet call to the bullpen. We saw Scott Air in the ball game last night. He'll face Schumacher in a big part of this game coming up with the bases loaded. Friendlies do not have J.C. Romero. Very tough on lefties last year. They only hit 102 against him. So the two lefties that they have, Scott Air and J.A. have to get them through those first 50 games. And it looks like Tony La Russa may counter now with his bench.
Khalil Green, who we said pinch hit last night, been battling this tendonitis and is eligible to play, in the field now. So he's going to use one of his few weapons he has.
Tony was telling me before the game that Khalil Green was going through a battery of tests and would determine whether or not he could play. And the lineup had already been made out. Is the fact that he is going to be able to throw. So this gives you the indication that probably he would start tomorrow night against Pittsburgh.
Yes, I think you're right.
Against lefties, you see Green just hitting 179. Wouldn't this be a way to endear himself to the home crowd here in St. Louis?
And sometimes when you got that wrist injury or you're coming off a injury factor, you just kind of relax a little bit. Don't try and do too much.
Green has been able to pinch hit, just not throw. And so they'll pinch hit for Schumacher here in the first pitch. The outside corner with a strike. Inning started with a single by Molina. Rasmus was hit by a pitch, a strikeout of Tyler Green. And then Wainwright would single to left. Bases loaded, only one out.
Khalil's been out the last 5 games or 6 games, including tonight, with that tendonitis.
And Khalil hits it into right center field. Victorino on the move. On the move and makes the catch on the track. 2 runners tag up. And Rasmus stops at third. Molina scores and Khalil Green gave it a ride. That makes it 7-5.
Almost. As documented earlier, that Victorino can really run down fly balls and up against the wall. So the Cardinals are in this peck-away mode. They're just trying to catch up. Gives it a ride out to right center. Look at how shallow he is. So the long run that he goes out into right center and right out on the warning track, had a couple feet to where he could change surface of his feet, going from grass to dirt, the warning track, and then push off as he collides with the wall.
Here's Joe Thurston. Lead is cut to 7-5. And Thurston takes a ball outside. Shane Victorino, only 2 errors last year and 323 total chances in winning his first ever Gold Glove. Thurston tonight with a double and a run scored back in the 5th. Now tied for the team lead in those doubles. Homered on the last road trip is first in the big leagues.
Friday night in Washington versus lefties. See, not as many at bats, but a good average, 375. Holds that front shoulder in, doesn't give away.
On the outside corner.
Good pitch there.
Pitcher's pitch right there.
Yep.
Zach Duke, Mitchell Boggs tomorrow. We're on the air at 6:30. In the hole now with a ball and 2 strikes. Here, the veteran went right back to that same spot.
Gave up a couple home runs in Washington. Started out good, but because of those home runs, his ERA is over 8.
There's a broken bat. It's popped up. Air is calling for it. He's got it.
The bat hit Wainwright in the leg, the barrel.
That kind of night for Adam. 7-5 Phils. It's 7-5 as the Phillies have a 2-run lead. And let's go pitch by pitch, presented by Chevrolet.
And breaking ball down and away. And he comes over the fastball on the inside part of the plate. Then a perfect fastball on the outside part of the plate. Misses with the slider, lays off it, and then he gets jammed on the fastball that's popped up on the infield.
99 pitches for Wainwright tonight. 66 were strikes, and this is our Chevy call to the bullpen as Denny's Reyes, one of the two lefties in Tony La Russa's pen, is out there. We saw yesterday in that bullpen, they were used a bunch, and the reason why is because they hadn't been used prior to last night.
And the best news last night was that bullpen got some work. Nobody overexposed. Everyone should be available, but that's going to help them with this tune-up tonight.
14th appearance for Denny's Reyes, and he'll be the first one to tell you that he loves the work. If he could pitch every night, he would.
That's right. 14th appearance, like you said. He had a career high in appearances last year with Minnesota. Opponents only batting 154. There you turn Jimmy Rollins over, and you said earlier how weak he is from the right side in the early going. Just 3 for 24. And swung at the breaking ball there in the dirt.
Last night it was only 4 1/3 for Kyle Loge. 6 runs allowed. And basically just an inning and a third that got him. The Worth home run, the Howard grand slam. Had a 1-0 lead in the 4th. And for Kyle, he had not allowed a home run since his first start. And you wonder if that hit by pitch when he was at the plate wound up affecting him on the mound. And I thought Ricky Horton made a great observation in the postgame show, Al. He talked about your lead arm, and maybe you can talk about this, but your lead arm, not your dominant arm, but for Kyle, his left arm, being a situation for a pitcher to tuck that front arm and get the pitching arm through when you tuck the front shoulder and the front arm. And he thought that may have been something that contributed to it. Loge would not make that excuse.
No, but but think about it. It's common sense. Not so much tucking, but when the arm is numb, you're out of whack. You're trying to go out there and use that arm for balance and part of your pitching, and you can't feel it, so you have a tendency to think about that and not what you're doing at the plate. And he was pitching extremely effective prior to being hit on the elbow, and then after that everything was pretty much in the middle of the plate.
6 runs allowed. In the previous 5 games allowed just 7. ERA jumped to 3.22. It was at 1.97, and he's always been very, very good here at home. That runner at first is Shane Victorino, and here's Ibanez.
Big night for Victorino as he's 4 for 4. A home run, a double, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs.
We talked about the importance at the beginning of the series of your left-handed pitching in the bullpen for times like this. You have Ibanez here, and then Ryan Howard on deck. And Chase Utley is on that bench, and now Ibanez is hit by the pitch.
Chris Perez is warming, and he gets hit on the elbow. Pitch going in there. On that point of the elbow, like Loge, and you just you lose the feeling in that elbow, and the whole hand goes numb.
And now you ask for trouble. Here's Ryan Howard. First and second, and 1 out. Howard tonight, a couple of walks and runs scored, struck out swinging against Wainwright back in the first. And there's a swing and a miss. Well, they knew they had something special in Ryan Howard back in 2005 as Molina's out to visit. 2005 in AAA, 40-plus home runs. 2006, he was the MVP. In that year, $335,000. That was his salary. And he won the MVP.
Well, and remember, Jim Thome had a few years remaining on his contract and was a popular and a good player in Philadelphia. And they traded him away to make room for him.
Molina, I think, came out to talk about the runner at second base, secondary lead. Here's the 0-1. 1 ball, 1 strike.
You know, went out there, he might be just saying, you know, okay, vary your looks. Don't let him get that lead. Khalil Green is kind of shadowing him, so he could get to the bag if he wanted to pick him off. But he's got enough of a job thinking about the hitter at the plate.
The 1-1 to Howard. Rips it into right center field. Picks up the RBI. And it's first and third, still 1 out. And now 8-5. Ryan Howard continues to kill the Cardinals.
And in this ballpark, it's amazing how many RBIs he has per game's play. Go back to the pitch selection. Lena set up inside, and look at the ball up out over the middle of the plate. And Ryan Howard talked about last night that he's lost a little weight. I think he's a little bit more mobile, and I think he's got much better plate coverage, not striking out as much, making more contact. And it looked like Chris Perez was warming up, and he'll be coming into this game.
Here's Perez coming in to face Jason Worth when we come back. Worth in our Hardy's prime cut of the game. A long home run. Chris Perez in for St. Louis. And this will be his 9th appearance of the year. ERA of 2.57 for Perez. The pitch at 93 miles an hour.
Learning experience for Perez, and lately he's been very good. Last 3 outings, he's gotten a win and a couple holds.
Pat Gillick was the one who drafted Jason Worth when he was with the Orioles, and then he signed Worth to a contract with the Phillies. I mentioned his grandpa, Ducky Schofield. 19 years and won a World Series ring with Pittsburgh back in 1960.
Ducky was one of those bonus babies. He signed that if you got a certain figure, if you got over that figure, you had to spend a year in the big leagues. You had to spend that year in the big leagues to try and discourage teams from going out and spending a lot of money on their. It was before the draft, so sometimes that retards your growth. He was a very good utility man.
And Worth is hit by the pitch. Cardinals have been hit twice now. They return the favor a couple of times, both coming in this inning.
Not sure this is when you would think about retaliation, and this is not the case. Is that ball just running up and in and gets him in the rib cage? This game is still within reach. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know.
Here's Pedro Feliz. Bases are loaded and one out. Feliz, 33-year-old from the Dominican Republic. Originally signed with San Francisco back in 1994, and he spent parts of 8 seasons with the Giants. It's prior to last year that he signed a 2-year contract worth almost $9 million to come from San Francisco to the Phillies.
I'm correct, Dan. In this 2-game series, there's already been 7 players hit.
Bases loaded. Feliz is the 8th full-time third baseman since Mike Schmidt retired. There's a ground ball that slowly hit. Pujols will have to go to Perez at first. Safe. Run scores. 9-5.
Turn around and watch the player. The base runner, as Perez was trying to argue, and he missed the bag. So the call is correct. Albert, by running away, doesn't really lead him. Kind of guide it, throws it behind him. And because of that, Chris Perez doesn't know where the first base bag is. He's reaching for it and trying to catch the ball behind, and where he thinks it is, it's not there. And Feliz beats him to the first base bag.
Tony La Russa gets his explanation. Bases remain loaded and only one out. And this is Cairo. If you're Charlie Manuel, you could go for the knockout blow here if you wanted to with Chase Utley.
That's a RBI base hit.
So here's Cairo hitting just .091. A couple of flyouts and a single.
Can that be scored a E3?
Could be, very easily. We are in St. Louis. It's Albert Pujols down there at first base.
I know, but you know.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. Double play ball. Out there. Out at first. Time to stretch. Back to a 4-run lead for the Phils. Prior to our first pitch, as Adam Wainwright made the start tonight for the Cardinals. Shane Victorino early on. Ryan Ludwig a little bit later. Yachty would get in the act as well. The big blow, Jason Worth. Nearly into Big Mac land. The Infinity Game recap. Clay Condrey is the new pitcher who wears number 55 for the Phils.
See, he's appearing for the 15th time. That ties for the lead in appearances. 13 of his previous 14 appearances have been scoreless. So he's been very effectively, and because of their ability to score late and come from behind, he already has 3 wins.
Out of Beaumont, Texas. And he'll face Pujols first up to start the bottom of the 7th. And Albert hits it out of play and foul. Player of the month for April in the National League. Condren features 5 pitches. He's got a sinker, a cutter, curveball, changeup, and a 4-seam fastball. Pitched with the Padres in 2002 and 03. Before coming to the Phillies in the offseason. Now with the Padres, he was a starter. Started 43 games between AAA, the Portland Beavers, and the Major Leagues. And Pujols strikes out. He's hitless in this series.
Breaking ball out there, and you see Albert miss that inning. You know, even when you go back to Washington and Atlanta, you know, his timing was a little off because he's been battling that flu bug, and it's just so unusual when you don't see him cleaning up night after night. And he did win the Player of the Week late in April. He was the Player of the Month.
Ludwig, a line shot to third. Feliz there. It's one of the reasons that they signed Pedro Feliz was for his defense. Ruben Amaro made that decision to bring him in. And when they signed him, they had Greg Dobbs, Wes Helms, our buddy Abraham Nunez was over there at third. They were just looking for a full-time guy. Here's Chris Duncan with 2 outs and nobody on. But Albert has the right tonic coming to town. Pittsburgh.
And hopefully he'll get a shot to do some damage in this one a little later on. But and from the teams that we've seen, and Phillies are, you know, by far not a perfect ball club, and they have their own pitching problems. This may be the best offense we've seen. I know we didn't see the Mets at their best. You know, the Cubs have had their issues with injuries.
I agree with you. Very much so. Here's a 3-0 pitch. I'm not sure we've really seen, and if the Phillies are the best we've seen, I'm not sure we've seen any great teams yet. No. But it's still very early. That has a way of shaking out once the season is through. Upcoming schedule for the Cardinals here in May. You've got Pittsburgh and at Cincinnati. And Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, so a lot of Central teams coming up, and then interleague play at the very end with Kansas City. Here's Yadier Molina. You always talk about playing in your division and playing well and winning at home. Cardinals, for the most part, have done that this year. They lose tonight. That drops them to 10-5 here at home. And a win would give the Phillies already their 8th win on the road. They'd be 8-2. There's only 5 teams that have a winning road record since 2008. And the Phillies are one of those teams. Taken a little bit low, 2 balls and no strikes.
He's out to talk to his pitcher. Getting back after he walks Duncan. He got a 4-run lead. Quickest way to get the opposition back into it is via the walk. Gotti with a good batting eye and that ability to hit behind the runner. And there's a lot of hitting lanes for him.
Here's a 2-0 pitch to Molina. Cardinals had the rain out on Sunday, and Major League Baseball rules that teams cannot play more than 20 days in a row without an off day.
we can get permission from the Players Association, and players would have to accept that. Usually they don't.
A couple of options for Tony La Russa and the Cardinals would be to play a doubleheader when Washington comes to St. Louis, or make it up at the end of the year.
Well, they're looking at, I think it's July 23rd. There's an off day between, the Cardinals going, I think Houston and Philadelphia. There's an off day, and that's what they're talking about.
Well, Condrey, this right-hander, got 2 big bats with Pujols and Ludwig, and then allows Duncan and Molina to get aboard. And here's Colby Rasmus.
Colby can make a statement right here.
2 outs, runners at first and second. This outfield, again, very shallow for Colby Rasmus. Colby tonight grounded out to second, grounded back to the pitcher, and was hit by a pitch in the 6th.
You better make something happen now, as Matson is starting to warm up in the Phillies bullpen. And Lidge would be behind him, so the 8th and 9th innings could be very tough on the Cardinals. So do some damage here. They play, you look at the gap out in left center as they play him to pull the ball in the outfield.
Lidge has been dealing with a knee ailment, but is okay to pitch. And that's a pitch right there that Colby can drive. 1-2. Here it comes, the next 2, Rasmus. Lines it into right field. Into the corner it goes. Duncan will score. Molina held up at third. And the tying run comes to the plate. Rasmus is hitting above 400 now with runners in scoring position.
It's his 6th RBI, as he's been hit by a pitch, and now 1 for 3. As that slider coming into him, he pulls it into the corner. It gets by the right fielder, who's playing shallow, all the way to the wall. Molina coasting into third, and you have 2 men on out there in scoring position for Tyler Green, who had base hits his first 2 time up. He struck out in the 6th. What will he do now? Kendo talking to Tyler Green, as the National League Rookie of the Month for April is on deck. Varden, but Charlie Manuel wants to pay a visit. He may go to Matson now. Double switch.
Frontlet will come in. Good defensive player. He'll take over for Cairo. And Matson, who's been getting loose in the pen, will come in for the Philadelphia Phillies. Will step aside with the tying run coming to the plate. 9-6 here in the bottom of the 7th with 2 outs and 2 runners on. Back and forth all night. And now we take a look at Ryan Madsen. This will be his 13th appearance, and he's a big reason why this bullpen was so good a year ago.
Yes, he is. He's a very reliable setup man. He's 28 years of age, 6'6", 220, out of Long Beach, California. A lot of innings last year, among the league leaders in appearances. And he's been good against the Cardinals. There you see Bruntlett, who's gone in to play second base.
All the infielders are taking a look back at the bullpen area.
It looked like Victorino was, and there's something out on the field, an animal running along the base of the left field wall.
It's in the left field
corner. And Victorino, I don't know if that's a Hawaiian dish out there or not. I'm not sure what it is, but it's in the left field corner. Oh, leftover from Easter, huh?
Little bunny rabbit.
Tony has a passion for rabbits as much as cats.
Kidding me? It's an animal.
It's loyal.
2 outs and a runner at second and a runner at third. First pitch, a high fly ball into right. Worth is over to make the catch. And we played 7 here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. It's 9-6. Beautiful shot there. And they have paved, by the way, an area of Ballpark Village. We're working on that early this afternoon. It's like a blacktop out there.
Major League Baseball asked them to blacktop that area for a lot of the corporate tents and the big gala event the night before the All-Star game. And it'd be probably for additional parking. With Perez back to work.
And here's Carlos Ruiz. First pitch is popped up and out of play. Perez started, of course, this year at Memphis and took it as a learning experience. Didn't sulk, and right away he was brought back up.
I thought he'd be in a very good position because he would be pitching consistently there at Memphis rather than fighting for innings up here. And it's part of the learning process. You know, he had a little tendonitis in spring training, missed some time, and wanted to be able to work on his, not only his slider, but also his fastball and find a little more consistency in the strike zone.
Line drive, base hit. And Ruiz has a leadoff hit here in the 8th.
Slider there, but it was a little bit flat up out over the plate, and those are going to be hit. We're trying to keep that same arm angle. He stays on top, and he'll face Bruntlett now. Came in as part of the double switch with Matson.
There's a gentleman that is here tonight, a backup catcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. It really is one of the great stories in baseball. That's bunted to Perez. He'll go to second out there, and they'll get the lead man. And that's Chris Coast.
I know you did an interview with him, and he is very interesting. With him. What was he, about 35?
33 when he made his
33 when he came up. Right?
Yeah, made his major league debut. He's actually written a couple of books, and his first book was written with just 2,000 copies that he published himself, and that was back in 1997. He's from the Fargo area. He was playing in independent leagues there, and he just wanted to describe, you know, his baseball experiences in independent leagues, and then he gets called up to the major leagues at the age of 33, and he's written a book called The 33-Year-Old Rookie, and it's a great book about his experiences in baseball and perseverance, and he's sold 40,000 copies now.
Good. Now Jason Mott, but Perez and Mott were the only two that didn't pitch last night. They're getting a chance to do so tonight.
Some more on Chris Coast when we come back. It's 9-6 Phillies. For the Cardinals, a record of 1-1, ERA over 4, and opponents hitting .286 against them. One out, and we're back to the top of the lineup again, and Jimmy Rollins will dig in for the Phillies, their leadoff man. And he smokes one. Right center. Ludwig over and makes the catch. Bruntlett is back to first. 2 away. Back to Chris Coast, Al, just for a moment. I said, how did you do this with a family? How did you stay in baseball as long as you did? He said, well, my wife, he said, we were high school sweethearts, and you better have an understanding wife when you're pulling in about $2,000 a month and explaining it that you're doing it playing baseball, and it's only half the year, by the way, and you have kids to feed as well. But he made it to AAA, started making decent money. The Phillies called him up. And it's a wonderful story if you get the chance to read his book. He said Eric Wedge was a huge influence for him. He wanted to be a coach or a manager when the game was over for him, so this is a way to stay in the game. And by the way, you can email him. I said, you know, how many people email you or give you letters?
Does he tweet?
Yeah, I don't know if he tweets. I bet he does. But he said that it's amazing. He said he answers every email, and you can go on his website. It's chriscoast.com to order his books, and it's spelled C-O-S-T-E, his last name, Coast.
Now I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why do we have some of these Washington economists? We ought to make him our national economist if he can survive on $2,000 a month with a family.
And that's a balk on Jason Mott. Hey, I'm just relaying the story.
No, I mean, obviously this guy's got his finances figured out.
Tony
asking for an interpretation.
Getting an explanation.
I see he turned his shoulders. Turned his shoulders ever so slightly, and that constitutes a balk.
Two outs and a runner at second base. Think about perseverance for Ryan Ludwig as well, just doing the little things. Go back to that fly ball into right center field. I love that every time you see him catch a fly ball, two hands, and quickly spinning and alertly getting the ball back in quickly to the infield. Little things like that.
Yeah, and like Bruntlett too, the base runner went all the way to second. He didn't pass the bag, but he got there, and then when the catch was made, he just went back to first base.
Coast used a phrase that you always use. They're going to have to pull this jersey off of me. I'm not just going to hand it.
They did off of me.
I'm sure they did. Well, you've made a pretty nice living.
Why are you so sure of that?
Well, because I know you. That's outside. A good story, Chris Coast.
It is a great story, and I think very early in that career, a few years back, we saw him, and he had terrific numbers and success against the Cardinals.
That's in the dirt. 3-2 on Shane Victorino. He's had a big night, and he's just a triple away from the cycle. 4 for 4, home run, a double, 2 singles, 3 RBIs. On deck, Ibanez. Struck him out. Pitch at 97 from Mott.
Nine 6 lead, and win or lose, when the Cards score 6, you score 25-cent drink on the run at Mobile. So that's a winner, and Cardinals got their work cut out here in the bottom of the 8th against Ryan Matson, who got the final out of the 7th inning, stranding 2 runners in scoring position. Brian Barton, who went in as part of the double switch, brought in Mott, will get his first plate appearance. And congratulations to Brian, as today he was named National League's Rookie of the Month of April. Quite an honor for the young man who hit his first 3 home runs, Major League home runs in April. He led all National League rookies with a .385 average, and he has 7 RBIs to boot. And line drive out there, but it's caught by Ibanez. So Matson has come in here. He's thrown 2 pitches and has 2 outs. Khalil Green who entered as a pinch hitter, hit a sacrifice fly back in the 6th inning, Dan. The Cardinals have had their opportunities, but where the Phillies putting up crooked numbers, the Cardinals are putting up single digits.
So Green will hit for the second time tonight. First pitch to him from Madsen, right down the middle and a strike. Mentioned the Cubs lost today at home. We'll get you caught up on the scoreboard momentarily. Toronto beat Cleveland 10-6. Tampa Bay over Baltimore 6-3. Texas over Seattle 7-2. Mets over Atlanta 4-3. Milwaukee beat Pittsburgh 8-5. Green hits another fly ball to right. Detroit pounded Minnesota 9-0. Cincinnati blanked Florida 7-0. Those are your finals. Jeff Weaver getting the start tonight for the Dodgers. They're trying to go to 12-0 at home, and they lead Arizona 3-0, and that's in the third. Jeff Weaver, that Jeff Weaver, one that helped the Cardinals win a World Series.
Just wonder if he would ever admit that made a big mistake in not re-signing with the Cardinals.
I can understand a player saying, okay, I'm going to try to go for the best deal out there. Don't know how long I'm going to be playing this game, but he had played a long time and had a lot of money, and you also have a chance to extend your career by having good years with that particular team or pitching coach.
Well, that was the case, and he said he wanted a multi-year contract. He ended up going to Seattle and back into the American League West, where he really had not fared very well. He got a multi-year offer from the Cardinals and signed for a 1-year offer for Seattle.
2-2. 2 outs, nobody on for Thurston. 9-6, but the ballpark is awfully quiet right now.
Just saw with Pittsburgh coming in tomorrow that Matt Capps has a strained elbow.
Thurston into right. Boy, Worth has been busy tonight. We played 8. 9-6 Phillies. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Bud Light, with just the right taste that never fills you up. The difference is drinkability. And by Bank of America. Cardinals banking only at Bank of America. Let's check in with Jim Hayes, who has a preview of what's coming up on the postgame show. Jim.
Yeah, stay tuned. After the game, Pat Paris and Rick Horton have the postgame edition of U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live. They'll break down tonight's performance by Adam Wainwright. They'll take a closer look at the rookie Tyler Green. And, of course, we'll have Tony La Russa's postgame news conference. It's all coming up. For now, we send it back to Dan and Al.
Raul Ibanez leads it off against Brad Thompson. Tony La Russa called Thompson impressive in his outing last night in his return to the major leagues.
He got an innings of work last night. As no hits allowed, 1 strikeout, made 3 starts at Memphis. And if he can get the ball down there, get his ground balls, you know, then you've got something. But they sure like him as a long man.
0-1 pitch. There's a fly ball down the left field line. That's trouble. One hops over the wall, and it's a ground rule double for Ibanez. And he'll get a test here with Ryan Howard. It's still only a 3-run lead.
Ball out in half, and he just reaches out there and plunks it, coming off the bat of the left-hander, slice away from Duncan, and bounces over the left field wall for the ground rule double.
Ryan Howard tonight, a couple of walks, had the RBI single back in the 7th. That's when the Phillies picked up 2 runs. And he also struck out back in the 1st against Adam Wainwright. Numbers here in St. Louis, remarkable.
RBIs.
29, I believe, now here in town at Busch Stadium. Came in with 24 and 6 home runs against the Cardinals. You have first base open here. And Lidge is getting loose in the pen.
Save situation as it is right now, a 3-run lead. So Lidge warming up. He's been kind of on the sideline with a knee ailment. So I saw, you know, the celebration. In your mind, remember the celebration when he got the final strikeout?
He looked pretty flexible, didn't he?
Yeah, but he went down on his knees, and then you get 50 people jumping on you. You wonder if that might have been how that knee problem originated.
Got him to chase. 1-2. Lidge had converted 47 consecutive saves dating back to the 07 season. 54 consecutive saves, including the postseason, before he finally blew a save earlier this year against San Diego. Gets Howard to reach here. Pujols to Thompson. Runner advances to 3rd with just 1 down.
Blew a save to a standing ovation in Philadelphia.
That won't happen again, will it?
No. But I think he earned that one.
There's Jason Worth. Big ball game for him tonight. RBI in the 3rd and a 3-run homer in the 5th. Was hit by a pitch in the 7th and struck out his first time up. Phillies have done this against 2 of the Cardinals' better pitchers in Loge and Wainwright tonight.
There's a 4-3 Phillies lead before he hit that 3-run home run in the 5th.
Infield is drawn in, and the pitch is taken for a ball outside. Mentioned that Worth has made the conversion from catcher to the outfield. He looks pretty smooth out there, doesn't he? And he's been busy tonight. One ball, 1 strike.
If Thompson's got that sinker working, you're going to see some of these hitters, particularly the right-handers, foul that ball off their front leg. The umpire giving Worth a little time, as that's what he did. Schinberger.
What?
Schinberger.
Burner. Gotcha.
Probably thought I said burger at
I
first.
did. Hey, wait a minute here.
Guess I'm
Another
getting
one of those
hungry.
Al sayings I don't know. 1-2 the count on that check swing. Big question with Worth over the years, especially when he was with the Dodgers. Could he stay healthy? Dealt with a wrist problem for a number of years. Slowly hit. Thompson to the plate. Throws a strike, and they got him.
Nice play by Brad Thompson, bouncing off, firing a strike to Molina. And then Yadier having enough time to brace himself for any type of collision. Reaching for it, and look at how Thompson gets out there, took his time, fired a strike. And you see Banya is coming down here. The bat right there, but you aren't going to see Yadier pick that up. That would be, that would be helping the runner.
There's Pedro Feliz with 2 outs and a runner at first. Looking ahead to the bottom of the ninth, the Cardinals will have Pujols, Ludwig, and Duncan. One for 4 on the night for the Phillies' third baseman. Outfield is straight away and deep. Anytime you see a Lidge-Pujols matchup, tough not to think about what took place in Houston. But Lidge regrouped. Give him credit. Rediscovered his slider and his confidence. It obviously was terrific last year. Tough play here. Who wants it? Sliding, and it drops in. That'll be a double for Feliz, and Worth scores all the way from first. It's a big run now because it makes it a 10-6 Phillies lead. Back to 4 runs.
Couldn't have placed that any more perfectly right in between these two guys. Neither one of them really felt comfortable enough calling for it. So they're both going after it. Last second, it looked like Thurston tried to get out of the way, but I'm not sure that Ludwig was going to catch it. Just perfectly placed, and give Worth some credit coming all the way around from first base on the little flare, and tough luck as Matt Stairs will now pinch hit.
Matt Stairs looks like he would be one of the great softball players.
Player. He does, and he's out of Canada, and he's come up with some big pinch hit home runs over the years.
Stairs leads all Major League Baseball players in pinch hit RBIs. A couple of home runs. He's a pinch hitter this year already, too. In the pinch, he's a .286 hitter.
He's hitting .400 with 2 home runs and 60 RBIs as a pinch hitter this year. 78 lifetime pinch hits. As like Stairs, you kind of really got a kick out of seeing him in the World Series and get rewarded, and then finally winning the World Championship after so many years.
Liner that's caught by Thurston. Pujols leads it off when we come back. Lidge coming in, the closer for the Phillies in a 10-6 game. Opportunities He has struck out 12 in 9 2/3 innings, and opponents hitting .275 against him. That's a bit surprising. He's also allowed 3 home runs.
That may be the factor because of that knee. He's been out for a while because of the knee. They have had trouble getting the ball down and a few fly balls going out of the ballpark. Unfortunately, Albert is going to lead off this inning as Lidge is being the Sporting News Fireman of the Year last year in the National League. Lifetime against the Cardinals, 0-3, 17 saves, 3.66 ERA in 46 career games. Averaging 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this season.
Pujols and Lidge, here we go to start the bottom of the ninth. 4-run lead for the Phillies. Albert has been held hitless in this series. Lined out to right tonight, flied out to deep left, grounded out to second, and struck out back in the 7th. 4 for 17 against Lidge, and only hitting .235, but the only one you remember is that home run in postseason play. Over the years, what is it about Lidge that's made him so good?
Well, one, because he has a very good slider and he throws extremely hard.
One-oh pitch. Pujols unloads. How far? Wow.
Maybe that's the start of the comeback.
30 RBIs for Pujols in his 10th home run.
Yeah, isn't that something? A non-safe situation for Lidge. A little bit of the emotions is out of it, but that's where you got to trick yourself and say, I'm coming back after spending times without pitching because of my knee. Throws a fastball. This one's down, and Albert just connects on that one. Just a fluid swing, the follow through, and he hit that one extremely hard.
Ludwig looks at the breaking ball.
Been a frustrating night for Albert. He was 0 for 4 before that home run, but getting ready for Pittsburgh, but hopefully he'll get another at bat in this game.
Way back, just drives the baseball.
And you could just see him because of Lidge looking for the fastball. Knows he's going to get one. Loads up on the backside, and then that explosion in his swing.
2-1. Just watching Lidge finish, it doesn't seem like he's getting the same drive, does it? Though he's a little bit more taller in his finish.
Yeah, and you know, is that the knee barking at him? Didn't he have knee surgery in spring training? Am I thinking that, and then it started flaring up here in the early season?
That sounds right. 2-2 pitch. 3-2. But certainly, though, we've been told here in the last 7 to 10 days, knee problems have flared up for him.
Does it look like the right one to you that he's favoring tonight?
I'm just watching his finish. He doesn't seem to be driving as hard as we normally see him.
Well, he's taking charge there, and it's a much easier play for a third baseman coming in than for the catcher kind of looking up. But Ruiz right there throws off the mask, and then watch him, third baseman takes charge, and he vacates the area.
447 feet, the measured distance of the home run by Albert Pujols. Here's Duncan.
Gives you an idea if you're looking fastball and he throws that slider, how you can't stop your swing.
Yeah, the other thing about the Phillies, I think, that gets overlooked a little bit, you see the home runs allowed already 6 here in 2009 as opposed to 2 a year ago. defensively, this is a pretty good team. Feliz very sure-handed over at third. Rollins a Gold Glover at short. Utley is very good at second. Victorino Gold Glove in center field.
Talking about Ryan Howard has lost some weight, and it looks like it's helped him defensively. Now this is the best team that we have seen so far.
If memory serves correct, I believe the surgery for Lidge was the spring prior to 2008.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It might have been last year, which would be even more remarkable for the season he had a year ago.
1-2 pitch to Duncan. Struck him out. Cardinals down to their final outs. Up to Molina to extend this ball game. He's homered tonight. We turn now to the Budweiser great player of the game, and it's Shane Victorino. 4 hits tonight and a triple away from the cycle. 4 for 5 and a big night.
And the Cardinals scored 7 runs on 11 hits. That should be good enough to win.
Cardinals, of course, looking for Wainwright to get back to what we normally see out of Adam, which is more times than not a dominating starter.
It looks like his winning streak will be stopped. Go back to last season. 9-game hitting streak.
Molina in the right, and that does it. The Phillies win it. 10-7 our final. Shane Victorino, a big night for the Phils. U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live is coming up. The Phillies are now 14.